She said it with her wine glass raised. "We're ashamed of you." The table stilled. Then came the brittle laughter. Forks paused. Eyes shifted. Crystal lights trembled against a silence sharp enough to cut. I didn't flinch. My name is Nora Hart, and I've heard that tone my whole life. The too red lipstick. The too tight smile. The same expression she wore the night she said I'd never become anything. But tonight felt different. Tonight, something in me had finally stopped bending. This time I wasn't a child anymore. This time I was ready. Before we continue, tell me where you're watching from. City, state, or country. And one detail about your setup. Here on Echoes of Life, we love knowing who's sharing this moment with us. When I was 8, I drew her in crayon. Bright smile, brown hair, a gold star on her shirt. I wrote my hero under it. I taped it crooked on the fridge. She left it overnight. By morning, it was gone. She tossed it out. "It was crooked," she said. That was my first lesson in shame. My brother's medals stayed. My sister's ribbons stayed. Everything of mine disappeared. Quietly, efficiently, like it embarrassed her to look at me. Growing up, praise lived in other rooms. I learned to survive without it. She called it tough love. But it felt more like conditioning. Training me to shrink. Training me to stay small. When I earned my scholarship, she said I was lucky. When I bought my first apartment, she said don't show off. When my startup collapsed, she didn't hug me. She said, "I told you this would happen." Her voice was always ready for my failure, almost eager. But the worst moment came later. A family gathering. Crowded kitchen. Clinking glasses. I passed the hallway and heard her whisper. "She embarrasses us," she told my aunt. "She thinks she's better than everyone, but look at her." They laughed. Not loudly. Just enough to bruise. I stood there holding a bowl of salad. Pretending it didn't matter. Pretending I didn't hear. But something cracked. A quiet, irreversible split. The kind you don't fix with apologies. After that night, I changed. Not loudly, not dramatically, but deliberately. If she wanted a villain, I would give her truth instead. Because the next time she tried to humiliate me, I promised myself she wouldn't walk away untouched. I didn't confront her right away. Anger wasn't useful. Silence was. Silence gave me space to think, to study her, to understand the cracks in her perfect image. My mother loved control. Holiday seating charts, color-coded menus. Photo angles rehearsed like choreography. She thrived on admiration. Validation was her oxygen. And nothing terrified her more than losing it. So I watched. Carefully. Quietly. I listened to her little stories. The polished ones she told guests. The ones where she always looked wise. Strong. Untouchable. I counted the lies. I counted the omissions. I counted the moments she used humiliation to keep her throne. Meanwhile, I rebuilt myself. Not dramatically. Not publicly. Just steadily, day after day. I worked nights. Freelanced weekends. Learned more than any degree could teach me. My startup failed once. Then twice. But failure felt familiar. Almost comfortable. I grew inside it. Shaped myself inside it. Quiet progress is still progress. And mine finally sharpened into something real. I moved into a small apartment. No help from anyone. No congratulations. No applause. But it was mine. A door I locked myself. A space where her voice couldn't reach me. Then came Christmas. Her favorite holiday performance. The tree perfect. The ornaments symmetrical. The food curated like an exhibit. Every detail crafted to show the world her perfect family. Except I didn't arrive on time. I arrived late. Very late. On purpose. She hated that. Her smile tightened instantly. The room shifted. My siblings watched me like I'd carried a storm inside. She leaned in with false sweetness. "You look tired," she said. Meaning, "You look terrible." I smiled. "It's been a productive year." Meaning, "You know nothing about my life." She bragged about my brother's promotion, my sister's engagement, then turned toward me with a grin sharpened by wine. "And you?" she said. "Still chasing those little projects?" I didn't answer. Silence unsettled her. She depended on my reactions, on my shrinking, on the version of me she spent years sculpting. Sometimes I wondered how many versions of myself she thought she'd broken, how many times she expected me to fold. But every quiet night alone built something steadier in me. A spine she never noticed, a strength she never meant to raise. But this year, I didn't shrink. I simply watched her performance unravel, slowly, piece by piece, because I wasn't the fragile child she trained. I was the woman she didn't see coming. If this happened to you, what would your heart choose? Comment 1 if you'd stay quiet to avoid another fight. Comment 2 if you'd finally speak the truth, even if it shakes the room. Echoes of Life is listening. Christmas dinner always started the same way. Her rules, her stories, her spotlight. But that night, something in the air felt brittle, like everyone sensed a storm coming. But no one dared name it. She poured more wine. Her laugh grew louder, sharper. She went around the table praising achievements that weren't hers. My brother's promotion, my sister's engagement, the new boat my uncle financed. Every compliment sounded like currency she wanted credit for. Then her eyes landed on me, bright, hungry, mean. "And you," she said, swirling her glass. "Still chasing those little projects?" The table chuckled. A safe, obedient chuckle. She thrived on that sound. I didn't respond. Silence again. My sharpest tool. She hated that. So she pushed harder. "You know," she said, tapping her glass, "we're proud of our successful kids. But you," she let the pause stretch, milk the tension. "You're harder to explain." The room tightened. I breathed slowly, calm, measured, waiting. She leaned back in her chair, drunk on control, not wine. "We love you," she said loudly, "but honestly, we're ashamed of you." Laughter scattered across the table like broken glass. Tiny, obedient shards. And in that moment, she thought she'd won. I stood, slowly. The napkins slid from my lap. The room went still. Forks hovered midair. My mother blinked, thrown off by my lack of collapse. "You want honesty?" I said softly. "Let's try it for once." Her smile twitched. "Sit down, Nora. You're overreacting." "No," I said. "Not this time." My voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. Truth carried its own gravity. "You spent years polishing your image," I began. "Perfect mother. Perfect family. Perfect Christmas. But perfection doesn't leave bruises you can't see. Perfection doesn't call its child a failure for sport." Her eyes went glossy. She whispered my name like a warning. "Nora, stop." I didn't. "You ignored me when I excelled, mocked me when I stumbled, and humiliated me when you needed an audience. You didn't raise confident children. You raised frightened ones, children who mistook fear for respect." My sister swallowed hard. My brother stared at his plate. Years of silence tightening around their throats. I stepped closer. "You said you're ashamed of me, but the truth is simple." The table waited, frozen, breathless. "I stopped being ashamed of you a long time ago." A tear slipped down her cheek. Real, raw, undeniable. She tried to speak, but her voice cracked. The wine glass trembled in her hand, and for the first time in her life, she had no script. I wasn't breaking the family. I was exposing the cracks she'd painted gold. I didn't wait for permission. I didn't wait for her defense. I simply placed my napkin on the table. Slow, deliberate, final. No one spoke, not even her. The room felt hollow, like everyone suddenly realized how fragile the hierarchy had always been. Her face cracked under the weight of silence. Tears smudged her mascara. She whispered my name again, smaller this time, almost human. I walked out without slamming the door. Control didn't need noise. Control had its own quiet. My phone buzzed before I reached my car. Her name flashed. Then again. And again. I let it ring until the cold seeped through my coat. Later that night, she texted, "You humiliated me." Just those 3 words. No apology. No reflection. Just accusation wrapped in self-pity. I didn't reply. 2 days passed. Then came the second wave. "My heart hurts," she wrote. "You didn't have to do that." Still no ownership. Still no truth. I left it unread. By the end of the week, her texts blurred into pleas, then guilt, then silence. On the 8th day, my brother called. He rarely called unless someone needed something. "Answer," he said immediately, breathless. "She won't stop crying." His voice cracked like he didn't recognize the woman at home. "She keeps asking what she did. She said you hate her now." I stared out the window, watching snow drift across the streetlights. "I don't hate her," I said. "I just stopped protecting her story." He didn't know how to respond. He'd never heard me speak like that. He muttered something about family, about forgiveness, about keeping the peace. Words we were all trained to obey, but I wasn't trained anymore. I wasn't 8, and I wasn't afraid. A week later, she tried one more time. Her voice was small over the phone. "Nora, can we talk?" Her tone wasn't sharp or superior. It was unsure, unsteady. The voice of someone who finally realized fear doesn't equal love. I let her speak. She rambled through excuses, half apologies, stories she'd polished for decades. But her words collapsed under their own weight. She couldn't hide behind them anymore. When she finally grew quiet, I said, "I didn't hurt you. You hurt yourself when you made cruelty a habit." She sobbed softly. Not theatrically. Not for an audience. Just a woman confronting the truth she'd avoided. Maybe for the first time. I didn't comfort her. That wasn't my role anymore. I just listened. Listening was enough. Silence again did the work. When the call ended, I felt lighter. Not vindicated. Not triumphant. Just free. Like I'd finally set something down I'd carried too long. She lost her script that night. But I found my voice. Winter moved on without ceremony. Days softened. Nights felt quieter. And the silence that once hurt now felt earned. I wasn't avoiding my family. I was choosing myself. A choice I never knew I was allowed to make. She sent a few messages afterward. Short ones. Gentler ones. No demands. No guilt. Just small attempts at honesty. Attempts she never made before. I didn't rush to forgive her. Forgiveness isn't a performance. It's a boundary you grow into. Some days I replied. Some days I didn't. Both were valid. Both were mine. My siblings stayed distant at first. Habit is hard to unlearn. But slowly they reached out. Tentative texts. Awkward check-ins. Little signs that the old script was fading. Maybe they were tired of fear too. Maybe we all were. I wasn't rebuilding a family. I was rebuilding myself around the truth. The truth that love isn't obedience. And respect isn't silence. And parents aren't gods. They're human. Flawed. Fragile. Often repeating the harm they never healed. One evening, snow fell in soft sheets. I sat by the window with tea. No noise. No tension. Just peace. A peace I carved myself. Piece by piece. Choice by choice. She still sets a place for me at Christmas. I know that now. My brother told me. Sometimes she stares at it too long. Sometimes she cries. That's her work, not mine. My healing doesn't depend on her recognition. It depends on my boundaries. And I finally have them. I didn't break the family. I broke the cycle. If this story resonated with you, please like the video, share it with someone who needs strength tonight, and subscribe to Echoes of Life for the next story.